Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Eye Opener Society. And I am doing this podcast specifically for the people on YouTube who might just be joining in and who have no idea what this show is about or what's happening. I just wanted to give a little background to hopefully maybe explain a few things. And if you wish to continue listening, that would be much appreciated. About I would say it's probably 2.5 years ago now, I went through a really rough time in my life and I had gone to a little place called Mind's Eye Metaphysical. The shop owner, Jen, she's just absolutely amazing. I sat for a Reiki session, and during that Reiki session, I think my entire life had changed. Everything I had ever wanted to do in life, once I left Jen's shop, Mind's Eye Metaphysical, I wound up becoming a brand new person, and I felt extremely powerful. So I started a business where I was doing meditation coaching, and the business didn't really take off because what happened was, as a way of cheap advertising, I decided to do a podcast. It was a lot like an infomercial, but every week I was doing a podcast, and those podcasts was promoting not only my business, but it was also promoting self help, self realization, higher perspectives, and things like that. It really took off. It took off so rapidly, and I was so amazed with it, and I actually became addicted to podcasting. So I had closed the business mostly because a lot of clients were not ready for it. A lot of people, when it comes to meditation, they want instantaneous results, and it does not work that way. But I decided to continue on with a podcast, and it was the Third Eye Meditation podcast. After doing that for a while, I had my stepdaughter come on the show, Hannah, and she sat in for one episode, and we just clicked so well together as a team. And I continue having her on the show, every week. After that, we decided, hey, listen, we're talking a lot about meditation all the time. You kind of run out of things to talk about when it comes to that, especially when you're doing a weekly show. So Hannah and I decided, hey, why don't we just rebrand, become a whole new podcast? And we did. We became Eye Opener Society, and that's whom we are today. And Hannah remained as a co host for so long. We all lived in a house together, my wife, myself, Hannah, and her husband. And then things had happened just probably about 3 months ago. We used to have our own in-house studio. It was all set up and all, and it was really great. And once things started happening with Hannah, she went through a real major thing, and I just can't speak about it right now. But we wound up having to move, and when we moved, it was very emotional again. And it seems like my life 2 years prior, when I started Third Eye Meditation, everything started to happen again. A lot of negative attitudes, a lot of emotional processing, and it really became overwhelming. And once we moved out, now I'm in here. I'm no longer in a studio. I got to readjust my life now to, work in a smaller place with my equipment. It has become very difficult, but we persevered. Because of the things that Hannah is going through, she cannot be on the show until further notice, but she still is my host. And I have picked up a great, fantastic person, Jennifer Miller from Tea Leaf Readings in the Valley. She was on one of our very earlier podcasts, and I just kind of liked the way she let things flow when it came to her way of thinking. And the more I got to know her, she brings so much intensity, so many topics, and so many things to think about in a very expansive way. And I think it fits very well. So now, while Hannah's away from the show, I have Jennifer Miller. And now we're going to be starting a live talk show, and that's going to start on February 5th. This live talk show is going to feature myself and Jennifer Miller, where we're just going to open up the topics. It's going to be very random, very different from the podcast that I do. And it's going to be twice a month, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be something different, something we're not used to, but we're going to try and develop something out of that. In the meantime, if you are interested in learning about the podcast, our podcast is basically about life, going through it, dealing with it, good times, bad times, sad times, whatever it may be. We try and give you a little bit of advice, hints, ways to get around things. We also throw in a few things that are, more metaphysical, spiritual. We even threw in a few things that are conspiracy theory wise. It was just, in the beginning, it was a struggle to find an identity, but as time went on, it really does focus on life, how to deal with it, and the changes, everything that's going around, the products of the environment that we have become, and how do we overcome that. It's been a wild ride, it's been a fun ride, and it's going to continue to go. And I appreciate anybody that does tune in and listen to this. It means a lot to us. As of recently, we've expanded the society and we've added 3 other podcasters that Eye Opener Society hosts. We have Elaine's Arcane Oracle podcast. It's an amazing tarot based and horoscope based podcast that she does once a month, and she usually throws in a bonus episode for usually a new moon or a full moon. And she literally gives everybody free readings, more basic readings from the horoscopes, and then she does tarot readings for each individual birth sign. And it's fantastic and it's very intuitive, and Elaine is just amazing. She's been doing it for a long time, and I really enjoy her show, and I hope everybody can tune in and listen to those episodes as well. Then we also have Anne Lund's Haunted and Waiting. And if you go to Anne Lund's hauntedandwaiting.blog, you will see that she's an inspiring writer. And Elaine was a friend of mine for a long time now, and she grew up in a house that was haunted. And I got to experience a lot of things that she had talked about. And she talks about these here things, about whether things she's actually experienced or known people who have experienced. And she goes on a lot of adventures and explores a lot of places. And that's what her book is going to be about once she gets that published. And I'm hoping that comes soon. But in the meantime, her podcast talks about a lot of these experiences. And they're just in a storyteller way. And it's not to haunt anybody, scare anybody, or to be like a thriller or anything. These are just real things she's experienced, and she spoke about them, and she does it in a podcast format, and it's, again, another great podcaster. And then we have Sunset Child, and that's Sunset Child's Out There podcast. And Sunset Child is just in a whole category of her own. She's an amazing person because she really sees everything from a 5D perspective. And it's amazing when, whatever the topic is, when you listen to her, while it seems so out there, it also is extremely plausible. Like, you could really listen to her and say, wow, that's so far out there, so far-fetched. However, it makes sense. So definitely listen to her show too as well, Sunset Child's Out There podcast. And so those are the 3 podcasts I have, plus my Eye Opener Society podcast as well with Jennifer Miller. And we encourage everybody to listen. Again, this has just been kind of a little background, a short background on the whole podcast. I hope you tune in, and that can be found at eyeopenersociety.podbean.com, and it could be heard on any platform really where you listen to your podcast from, as well as here on YouTube. So again, I thank you so very much. I'm glad you are enjoying the show. If it's something that you're not into, that's fine. No need to force yourself to listen. I am not begging for listenership, but I do appreciate anyone who does listen. Thank you again, and I hope you tune in.